There's a moment in every fighter's career when they have to choose between arrogance and respect. For Tyler the Titan Morrison, that moment came in a dingy gym on a Tuesday afternoon, standing face to face with a man who introduced himself simply as Chuck. Tyler saw an old man with calloused hands and faded dreams. What he didn't see was the legend beneath the surface, a name that once meant something in martial arts circles, a man who'd fought in tournaments where losing meant more than a bruised ego. Tyler made his choice that day. He chose mockery, he chose cruelty, and in doing so, he wrote a check his fists couldn't cash. Because sometimes the quietest people in the room are quiet for a reason. They've already proven everything they needed to prove. And when you push them far enough, when you disrespect not just them, but everything they stand for, the universe has a way of teaching you a lesson you'll never forget. This is the story of how a young champion learned that respect isn't given, it's earned. And humility? Well, that's often learned the hard way. Tyler Morrison was 24 and unstoppable. 6 months ago, he'd won the regional lightweight championship with a third-round knockout that went viral. The video had 15 million views. His Instagram had 500,000 followers. Sponsorship deals were rolling in. He was young, hungry, and convinced the world owed him everything. His manager, Rick, had found him a new training facility, a modest gym tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop in the old part of town. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. The kind of place where fighters sweated blood and built character, not just highlight reels. On his first day, Tyler walked in like he owned the place. Designer athletic wear, noise-canceling headphones, and an attitude that could fill the room. He barely glanced at the heavy bags, the worn canvas ring, or the faded posters of martial arts tournaments from decades past. Then he saw him, an older man, maybe early 70s, wrapping the hands of a young fighter with patient, practiced movements. His hair was gray, his face lined with the kind of weathering that comes from a lifetime of discipline. His gym shirt was simple, no logos, no flash, just a plain tee and worn training pants. Tyler smirked. This was the legendary trainer Rick had mentioned? This old man? Chuck looked up, made brief eye contact, and nodded. A simple acknowledgement, nothing more. He went back to his work, giving quiet instructions to the young fighter about maintaining proper stance. Tyler didn't like being ignored. "So you're Chuck, huh?" Tyler said loud enough for everyone to hear. "The guy who's supposed to whip me into shape for my title fight?" Chuck finished wrapping the hands, patted the young fighter on the shoulder, then turned. "That's the plan," he said simply. His voice was calm, measured, the voice of someone who'd seen everything and had nothing to prove. "No offense, old man, but I need someone who can keep up with me. Someone who knows modern fighting. Not," Tyler gestured vaguely, "whatever Karate Kid stuff you did back in the day." A few people in the gym stopped what they were doing. The room grew tense. Chuck's expression didn't change. "Effective fighting is built on fundamentals. Fundamentals don't age." "Yeah, well, neither does irrelevance," Tyler shot back. Some of the younger guys snickered. Tyler fed off it. "Look, I'll do my time here, but let's be real. You're probably going to learn more from me than I will from you. What are you going to teach me, roundhouse kicks? This is boxing, Grandpa." Chuck held his gaze for a long moment, then simply nodded. "We'll see." That was it. No anger, no defensiveness. Just two words that somehow felt heavier than any comeback. Over the next 2 weeks, Tyler made Chuck's life hell. He showed up late to training sessions, claiming his social media commitments were more important. When Chuck tried to correct his footwork, Tyler rolled his eyes and said, "This worked fine when I knocked out Rodriguez." When Chuck suggested conditioning drills that incorporated martial arts principles, Tyler complained they were old school and inefficient. The worst moment came during a sparring session. Chuck was demonstrating proper defensive positioning with one of the gym's amateurs, moving with a fluidity that defied his age. Tyler, watching from the side, laughed out loud. "Dude, you look like you're in a kung fu movie from the 70s. Is that what you're trying to teach me? How to fight in slow motion?" Chuck stopped, removed his focus mitts. The gym went quiet. "You think speed is everything?" Chuck asked. "I think speed, power, and clout are everything, old man. 3 things you don't have anymore." Chuck's jaw tightened, the first crack in his calm exterior. What I have is respect, something you're going to learn about whether you want to or not. Respect? Tyler laughed. From who? The has-beens and never-weres in this dump? He gestured around the gym. I'm going places. You're staying right here, wrapping hands and living through other people because your own glory days are buried in the past. Chucknorris jokes were funny 20 years ago, old man. Now you're just the punchline. The words hung in the air like poison. Chuck set down the mitts, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he turned back. His eyes weren't angry. They were sad. Your title fight is in 3 weeks, he said quietly. I hope you're ready. Then he was gone. That night, Rick came to Tyler's apartment, and he wasn't happy. Do you have any idea who you just disrespected? Rick's voice was tight with anger. Some old guy named Chuck Norris. What, is he related to the actor or something? He is Chuck Norris, you idiot. Not the Hollywood Chuck Norris, but a martial arts champion who earned that name through blood and discipline. He won multiple tournament championships in karate, kickboxing, and mixed disciplines back when fighting meant something. He was teaching fighters before MMA was even a term. Tyler felt something cold settle in his stomach. He transitioned to training boxers and mixed martial artists 15 years ago after his wife passed away. Poured everything into helping fighters who reminded him of himself. Hungry, disciplined, willing to learn. He's trained world champions, Tyler. Champions who respected him enough to listen. Rick leaned forward. You mocked a man who's forgotten more about combat than you'll ever know. And worse, you did it in front of the only family he has left. Those kids in that gym who look up to him like a father. Tyler wanted to defend himself, but the words wouldn't come. He'd been so focused on his own image, his own rise, that he'd never stopped to see anyone else as fully human. Chuck wasn't just an obstacle or an outdated relic. He was a man with a story, with pain, with a legacy earned through sacrifice. For the first time in months, Tyler felt small. The next morning, Tyler showed up at the gym at 5 a.m. He found Chuck alone, working through kata forms with a precision that made Tyler's breath catch. I'm sorry, Tyler said. No jokes, no excuses. I was wrong about everything. Chuck stopped mid-movement, looked at him for a long moment. Why are you here? Because I need to learn, not just how to fight, how to be the kind of fighter who deserves to win. Chuck studied him, then nodded toward the ring. Get wrapped up. We've got 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks were the hardest of Tyler's life. Chuck worked him to the bone, not to punish him, but to rebuild him from the ground up. Every drill had a purpose. Every correction came with an explanation. Chuck taught him to see fighting not as a performance, but as a conversation. Reading his opponent, adapting, staying present. He incorporated footwork from martial arts, teaching Tyler how to move with balance and purpose. He showed him breathing techniques that kept him calm under pressure. He taught him that power without control is just wasted energy. More importantly, he taught Tyler discipline, humility, and the difference between confidence and arrogance. By the time fight night arrived, Tyler wasn't the same person who'd walked into that gym 5 weeks earlier. The arena was packed. Tyler's opponent, Ruthless Rodriguez, was favored to win. He was bigger, more experienced, and hungry to take Tyler's hype and bury it in the canvas. Chuck sat in Tyler's corner, calm as ever. Remember what we worked on. Stay present. Trust your training. The first 2 rounds were brutal. Rodriguez was fast, aggressive, relentless. But Tyler didn't panic. He used Chuck's teachings, controlled his breathing, moved with purpose, watched for patterns. In the 3rd round, Tyler saw it. A slight drop in Rodriguez's left shoulder before every hook. Chuck had taught him to look for exactly that. The tell, the opening, the moment of truth. Tyler slipped the next hook, countered with a perfect body shot, then a clean right cross that incorporated the hip rotation Chuck had drilled into him. Rodriguez stumbled. The crowd erupted. Tyler won by decision, not with a flashy knockout, but with discipline, strategy, and heart. In the locker room afterward, Tyler found Chuck packing up the training gear. He grabbed the old man's hand, then pulled him into a hug. Thank you, Tyler whispered. For not giving up on me, Chuck patted his back. I knew who you could be. You just needed to see it yourself. Tyler never forgot that lesson. He went on to win multiple titles, but he never let success poison him again. He trained with Chuck for the rest of his career, eventually helping him mentor the next generation of fighters. Years later, when reporters asked him about his transformation from arrogant prospect to respected champion, Tyler always told them the same story, about a trainer named Chucknorris, and the day he learned that strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can respect the people who came before you, how much you can listen, how much you can grow. Because the people who've already proven themselves have nothing left to prove except to those who are wise enough to learn from them. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't throwing a punch. It's knowing when to shut up, listen, and let someone who's been there before show you the way.